I have a question which I am arguing with a Muslim about. Maybe you can help. When a Christian converts to Islam, does he or she then bear the sin of shirk? Shirk means, worshipping God, associating God with other God. Because the Muslim I talk with is claiming that the shirk only after you say the Shahada. First of all, we Christian, we are not mushrikeen. In Islam, yes, we are, but this is due to the stupidity of the one who made Islam. Because the Bible says clearly that you worship your God alone. In many locations, in many places, and all the Christians agree that God is one. The Muslims, because they follow an ignorant, his name is Muhammad, they think that we as a Christian, we worship many gods, including Mary, which is false. There is no Christian sect ever, and there is no Christian sect exist in this earth believe that God is many gods. We have one God, and the Bible is so clear from the beginning of the Bible. And I will quote some verses in the screen so people they can see what I'm talking about. In the same time, the Quran speak about that if you commit shirk, if you associate any God with Allah, Allah will never forgive you. And we can find that in many verses in the Quran, as an example, chapter 4, verse 48, and chapter 4, verse 116. And by the way, in here, before we go and answer, you will notice in here that the two verses is saying exactly the same. So why does God repeat himself saying the exact word? It doesn't make sense. Because if we go to chapter 4, verse 48, and this is Yusuf Ali translation, you will see the verse saying the same as the other verse. And if this is even in the same chapter, so why does God keep repeating and repeating himself? But anyway, Allah forgive not that partners should be set up with him, but he forgive anything else. The verse is very clear that there is a sin Allah will never forgive, and there is a sin can be forgiven. Now, what can be forgiven? Anything except taking partners with Allah. So I think this is very clear that if you take partners with Allah, he will not forgive you. Don't try. That's it. Now the question is, okay, is that the one who take partner, supposedly he took partner before he became a Muslim? So is the verse speaking about him before he became a Muslim or after he became a Muslim? The answer is very clear too. The one who take partner, Allah will never forgive him regarding of the time. If he did that before he became a Muslim or after he became a Muslim. And we will show the proofs and the reference. The Quran simply says it clearly in many places that Allah forgive only the Muslims anyway. So in here, in this verse, we see the exception. He's speaking about forgiveness, and there is exception of this forgiveness. This forgiveness only will happen to the believers anyway. Non-believers, they have no forgiveness. Actually, the hadith says that Allah will take the sin of the Muslims in the judgment day, and Allah will put it over the Christians and the Jew, all the sin. So there is no sin is going to be forgiven for non-Muslims. So in here, when you make a law saying, I forgive all your sin except one thing, he's speaking to who? To the believers, because we only forgive the believers. And we are going to prove that. If we go to different verse, as an example, this one, chapter 47, verse number 8 and 19. Allah saying to Muhammad, you should know Allah is taking Shahada now, which is funny. Know therefore that there is no God but Allah. Allah is witnessing, saying there is no God but Allah, taking Shahada, he converted to Islam. And ask forgiveness for their fault, actually for the sin, not fault. This is the fake translation of Yusuf Ali. And for the man and the women who believe. You see it? So you cannot ask forgiveness for the sin of those who don't believe, because the Quran in different verse saying, if you ask for forgiveness 70 times, those who don't believe, Allah will not forgive them anyway. So all sin of non-believers will not be forgiven. And let us see this verse. Chapter 9, verse number 80. Again, chapter 9, verse number 80. Read with me. Let us see what the verse is saying. Whether you ask for forgiveness or not, their sin is unforgivable. If thou ask 70 times for their forgiveness, Allah will not forgive them. And by the way, this is about Muhammad. There is the hadith saying that Muhammad, he asked for forgiveness of his father and his mother, because both of them, they are infidels. And Allah still, he don't want to forgive them, you know, because no sin of them will be forgiven for a very simple reason: they are not Muslims, and Allah only forgive for Muslims. So the forgiveness law is exist only, or option is exist only for those who they are believers, okay, the one which Allah he guide. Therefore, as long the exception of the sin which will not be forgiven, it have to be about an exception for somebody is under that law, not you or me. Because Allah in here is speaking to the believers, saying, I forgive not, I forgive all your sin. And we just proved to you that all the sin Allah will not forgive except for the Muslims. But to the sin of the Muslims is going to be forgiven, except one sin: if you do take shirk. And when the Muslims was doing shirk, this is before they became a Muslim, which is very funny and very stupid, because all of them, they was mushrikeen. And just to make it more clear, let us go in here and see this. This is in chapter 4, verse number 168. Those who reject faith and do wrong, Allah will not forgive them nor guide them to any way. Okay? And remember in here he said, he is not saying those who commit shirk, because what if you are a person who don't worship any God? You don't have a God. Then you don't commit any shirk, because you don't believe in any God. There is people from old ages, ancient ages, they don't believe in any God, as we call them today, atheist. So it doesn't matter if you commit shirk or not, still your sin will be not forgiven. Those who reject faith, you know, not worshiping different God, he reject faith totally, and he do wrong, you know, he is in the wrong. What is in the wrong is not to follow in Islam. So he rejected the faith, rejected Islam, and he don't do Islam the way Islam should be. So he's doing wrong, because anything you do out of Islam is wrong. So this verse in here showing us that those who don't have any faith, they reject faith. Faith, because by the way, faith is a general way, a word. It doesn't mean to be in Islam. It's you know, faith. You have faith in nothing. You have no God. He rejects faith. He have no faith in nothing, and those must be atheists. So you reject faith and you do wrong, Allah will not forgive you. So again, Allah is insisting that forgiveness only for the Muslims, and Allah will not forgive them nor guide them. You see, there's two things in here connected: forgiveness and guidance. Allah guide who? Guide the Muslims. Then he forgive who? The Muslims. Therefore that verse is speaking about Allah will forgive the shirk, not, he will forgive not the shirk of those who commit shirk either before Islam or after Islam. And to make it more clear, I will show more verse, or one more verse. Before we finish this topic, in chapter 7 verse 191, it says that the mushrikeen is the one who worship the one who create nothing. The one who worship the one who create nothing. And this is what it says in this verse, as we see. Do they indeed ascribe to him as partners things that can create nothing, but are they themselves created? So the Muslim is a mushrik if he create a God. He cannot be a creator or the creator. But the Quran says that Jesus is creator. You know, if we go to chapter 3 verse number 49, it says in here that Jesus can create from the figure of a clay a living bird. He breathed into it and is going to be alive. The Muslim they say to you, this is by the leave of Allah. It doesn't matter. He became a creator, because it says, I create, I make. Jesus talking, saying, I make for you, and I breathe into it, and I make you out of a clay, a figure of a bird. This is all is the made of Allah. If Allah give him a leave, permission to do that, it doesn't change anything. If you give me permission to drive the car or not, still I can't drive the car. So therefore Jesus is the creator, and the Quran says clearly that the shirk is the one who worships someone. He is not a creator. Same story can be found chapter 25 verse number 3. It says, do they worship someone he cannot create anything? You know, like, do really do that? Here we go, chapter 25 verse number 3 again. So to be in the right faith is if you worship a creator in Islam, and the Quran says that Jesus is the creator. And again, we as a Christian, we don't worship three gods, we worship one. The Muslims actually, who do not know even who they are God, they refuse God to be a man, but their God is a leg. They refuse God to have a body, but their God have a body. He have a hand, he have an ass, he have a back, he have a front, he have a face, he have a back of his head, he have ears, he have a tongue, he have lips. So all of those is not a problem for the Muslims, but they say to you, Allah cannot be a man. And you know, as long as I'm talking about this, I want to remind people of something very important. When a Muslim, he says Allah cannot be a man, it means Allah cannot be God too. Because the God who cannot be something he wants to be, it means he cannot be God too. Because if God is all powerful, it means God, he can be whatever he wants. Either God, he is capable of everything, or God, he is capable of nothing. And the God who you can say that he can do things and he cannot do other things, it's me really, he is the same as me. And I will explain to you now, like we answered the first topic, but now I'm going to explain to you something very important. Prove to us that the God of Islam is a false ideology, false, made up by Muhammad. He does not exist, he is a joke. Let us go and see something will prove to us that the God of Islam is very false. And by the way, this is the image of my coming book. It's called The Deception of Allah. It's going to be, I hope, by the end of this month ready. Actually, not by the end, but in the beginning of the coming month, it's going to be ready for people to have it. It's volume number 1, and volume number 2 is going to be printed later. You can give it as a gift for your friends. It's a book full of information you never heard before. And the Muslim themselves, I advise them to have it, because you will be shocked. You will learn things you never saw, heard, ever about your religion. And all with the proofs, reference, page numbers, and all from your books, not from Christian books. Now, let us go and show you how stupid the idea of Islam and why it's a joke for me. Let us go and see. Chapter 6, verse 101, and chapter 72, verse number 3. To him due the primeval origin of the heaven and the earth. How can he have a son when he has no consort? It's a disaster. The reason it's a disaster, because what the Quran is saying to us, Allah, he can have a son if he have a consort. And by the way, in Arabic it's sahiba, which means girlfriend. It's very funny logic that God, he asked us to get married, not to have girlfriend, but he himself, when he speak about having kids, he speak about having girlfriend, not a wife. So how can he, so Allah cannot, because he don't have a girlfriend, but he can if he have a girlfriend. So he's the same as me, because I am the same, I'm a man, I cannot have a son unless I have a woman. So Allah and me is the same, because if Allah is all powerful, he should be able to have a son without girlfriend, because isn't he the creator? Can't he find a solution? So he cannot, because he's saying, how can he? This is the logic of Muslims, and this is the logic of Allah. How can he have a son if you don't have a girlfriend? So if you found him as a wife, he will have a girlfriend. And the God who cannot do something without a woman, so to have a son, he is the same as any man of us, therefore he cannot be God. Time is up. Christ is Lord. Islam is false. And see you soon.